So while I did initially want to avoid addressing and talking about some of these rumors that have been floating around the Penguins, with the hiring of Ron Hextall and Brian Burke, I think it's now fair to say that something could happen soon. As we witnessed in the season thus far, which is now, for Pittsburgh, a quarter of the way in, they're a mess. In this video, I'm going to try and give my perspective on what I think and predict will happen to this team moving forward. So earlier in the season, under really strange circumstances, Jim Rutherford resigns. Most of us have heard by now that the presumed assumption is that JR was trying to do, JR things and make a trade that was shot down. Goodness, this man and his trades. Anyways, so he's gone, right? The Penguins take their time and really comb through prospects for the GM position, and they bring in Ron Hextall, which is kind of humorous in its own right because, being a fan, played for the Flyers back in the day. But anyways, Hextall and Brian Burke, who will be the president of hockey operations. So interesting move here because as a franchise, Pittsburgh has never had that position before in its history. So I'm no business expert, but Burke ideally is going to be kind of like Hextall's support system, I guess. And before he was, the GM of my team, I didn't know really a lot about Hextall's managerial history. Burke, I knew a little more of, a guy that helped construct a Stanley Cup team in Anaheim, Harvard educated, and isn't afraid to make moves. So knowing all this from what I've learned recently on Hextall is that he's all about prospects, team growth, and development. He's not a GM like JR who is just stuck in Stanley Cup, win mode his whole entire career. No, this is a guy that's previously put together a very good Philly team. So knowing all this and taking all this into account, how are they legitimately going to fix this broken team? Alright, because Pittsburgh, in my opinion, is far from being what they were in 2016-17 at this moment. They've had injuries already this season, yes, but even poor guys that have been healthy have been so out of sorts and just generally lost. Looking at this team itself, as most of us know, it's built to thrive on a speed and attack style of game that's enforced, theoretically, by the 1-2 punch at center with Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin. Now, if you look at the defensive core, it's mostly supposed to just kind of echo the offense and, stay in sync with the puck-moving, blue line cycling type of game. The only real defensive D-man here, in my opinion, is Brian Dumoulin, who is right now injured and has had his injury woes thus far in his career. So yeah, we've missed Dumoulin a lot. The others are offensively geared, mostly. So goaltending is a subject that's taken on a whole other life of its own here in Pittsburgh, as Mike Sullivan has had to look to Casey DeSmith at times to help stop the bleeding, as Tristan Jarry finds his game. As a fan, I personally had higher expectations of Jarry coming in just based off of his play last season, and basically, because he pretty much stole the net from Matt Murray because of his stellar play. So as a whole, this team is fragile and in need of some direction. So how do you shake things up? Oh yeah, trades, that's right. Now, being more geared towards Penguins news than anything, the overall consensus seems to be that Evgeny Malkin makes the most sense over Sidney Crosby to trade as far as forwards go, and obviously Chris Letang is a given as well defense. So looking at the cap, Malkin has much less time than Crosby on his deal at $9.5 million, and Sid's is, 8.7 because Sid's Sid. But also, they both have a no-move clause, like full no-move. Letang has a modified one, so hypothetically he would be much easier to move if he, wasn't okay with it and didn't give his consent. Now, obviously, both Letang and Malkin have been, compared to their previous career performances, literally playing like shit. There's no other way to put it or justify it. I really believe that 3-0 against the Bruins that they were involved in just sums up their season so far perfectly. Now, obviously, these guys commend respect for what they've done for the city, but as I've been saying for a while now, this team has to start turning the page and gearing up for when Crosby is no longer able to carry this team, because sadly that time is coming eventually. Speaking of, as I've also been adamant about for a while, the team desperately needs some first rounders. So if you look at their prospect pool right now, it's absolutely dreadful. Maybe a handful of players at that that are legit, along with 0 first-round picks for 2021 at the moment. Segue into where Letang and Malkin come in. So as a fan, I legitimately don't see Lemieux wanting Crosby to go or Crosby wanting Crosby to go. At least, until his deal is up, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, apparently Darren Drager thinks otherwise. Yeah. So looking at it, naturally you start to consider cup contenders or teams that are in win now mode to send these guys to, such as like St. Louis, Calgary, Colorado, Boston, Tampa, etc. Teams that will be willing to give up a first rounder and prospects for a player that could help them win in their final years playing. Now, obviously, I don't think this is the only thing to do, as goaltending is kind of bleak too for us. I feel like maybe as the style evolves a little with this team, maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to get a couple grinders on the back end either, instead of having, so many offensively inclined guys. Because, I mean, if you're not going to get a Vezina caliber goalie or, a really, really top of the league goalie, then you definitely need just somebody besides, just Brian Dumoulin, who, is injured a lot, back there cleaning up some of these mistakes. I do think Cody Ceci has been decent as well for us, surprisingly, but I'm not sure if Hextall will decide to keep him or not in the offseason. I don't know. He's a UFA. Anyways, for anyone that cares, these are my thoughts about the team moving forward. Also, shout out to Evan Berger for these fresh new tunes. Thank you so much, Evan. If you aren't already subscribed to him on here, definitely go check out his channel, and his Twitter handle will also be overlaid here as well.